I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We continue in the Gospels again. We're about the time of the end of Christ's first year. We're around the time of the second Passover. He had the first Passover very shortly after his baptism. And, he's been staying around Galilee because the people in Jerusalem want to kill him. Primarily around the Capernaum area, but he does travel around a bit. Now, we also read the execution of John the Baptist. And we've been reading now about the feeding of the 5,000. Now, according to Mark and Luke, this miracle occurs just after the 12 apostles return, because Christ had sent them out to do their own personal missionary work. So they come back, and Christ takes them to a solitary place. According to Matthew, Christ goes to the solitary place because he hears about the execution of John the Baptist. However it was, we are now at that point. Now we read the same story again in John, because it is one of the very few stories that is in all four Gospels. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. And what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. So we read this in John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. After these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes, and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread that they may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, There is a lad here, which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. For what are they among so many? And Jesus said, Make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place. So the men sat down in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together, and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, This is of a truth that prophet that should come into the world. We don't really get a lot of new information here. The timeline's a little oddly worded because John kind of skips over most of the first year of Christ's ministry here. But he says this, he asks the apostles, specifically Philip, how are we going to feed them? It's like, how do you think we should feed them? To see if he can think of it. See if they have the faith to think of the possibilities. And they just say, well, we don't have the money for this. And so he performs the miracle to show them that they don't need the money. Remember, John's purpose here is to show those who are already converted that Christ is God. And that's what he's doing here. We can see the difference in how they word things. Each of these men, as they're recording, we can see their different styles, but also the different purposes in their writing. But one other thing very interesting is that all 4 of them are very exact on the details. 5 loaves, 2 fish, 5,000 men. All those details are the same. There's no discrepancy here. That is very remarkable. Let us look at the Joseph Smith translation here for John. Only verse 12 has any correction, so let's just read this. It says, When they had eaten and were satisfied, he said unto his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. So this is just a correction from when they were filled. It's when they were satisfied. Those are slightly different because you can eat till you're full, which means you are no longer feeling hungry, or you can eat till you are satisfied, which means you no longer desire the food. Slight difference in meaning there. Interesting, but not real important. So we leave that here. Our next reading will combine multiple Gospels and then we will be moving into single Gospels after that, so I will see you there.